Welcome to part 2 of completing a SEND35 form. If you haven't already, you should watch part 1 first, which explains when the SEND35 form should be used and what to include in sections 1 to 9 of the appeal form. This video will go through the rest of the appeal form, starting at section 10. Section 10 is where you set out your reasons for appealing. This is one of the most important sections of the form. For each issue you are appealing, you should explain what the issue is, why you disagree with the local authority's decision, what evidence supports your position, and what action you want the tribunal to take. When explaining your reasons, think about what is happening in school right now. For example, has the school said they cannot meet your child's needs? Is there a risk of suspension? Is your child on a reduced timetable? Have professionals stated that your child needs a specific type of environment? Think about the evidence you have to support your reasons for appealing. This could be the final EHCP or the reports gathered in the needs assessment if you don't have an EHCP. You can copy and paste things from these documents, but make sure you reference where they've come from. If you're appealing sections B or F of the EHCP, any requested changes should be supported by evidence. If you're appealing section I, which names the school placement, you will need to explain why the school currently named in the EHCP is not suitable and why the school you want is suitable. Section 11 allows you to ask the tribunal to make recommendations about the health and social care sections of the EHCP. These recommendations are not legally binding in the same way as educational decisions. However, there is an expectation that they will be implemented. If a local authority or health body decides not to follow a recommendation, they would need to explain why. Section 12 asks about your mediation certificate. In some situations, you may not have one, such as if you're only appealing section I or if your appeal is being submitted late. Make sure you complete this section carefully and select the option that applies to you. In section 13, include the date printed on the decision letter and the date shown on your mediation certificate if you have one. If your appeal is late, you will need to explain why the appeal was submitted after the deadline, why you believe your appeal has a good chance of success, and why you should not be required to wait for another annual review or pursue alternative routes, such as a new EHC request. Late appeals must be considered by a judge first, which can delay the process. Because of this, in some situations, it may be more practical to seek a fresh annual review and obtain new appeal rights. If you have another child who is also going through the tribunal process, Section 14 allows you to tell the tribunal. Section 15 asks whether there are any other court or tribunal proceedings involving your family, such as family court proceedings. Section 16 asks whether you would like a paper hearing or an oral hearing. Paper hearings are where the tribunal only looks at the documents and evidence which has been sent to them. These types of appeals can be heard a little bit quicker, but there is no opportunity for the judge to ask questions to clarify any information or for you to ask questions of the local authority. Oral hearings are usually held online by a secure video link, but you can request an in-person hearing if needed. They give you the opportunity to explain your case directly, ask questions, and respond to any issues raised during proceedings, but there is generally a longer wait for oral hearings. The local authority will be able to provide their views on whether there should be an oral hearing or a paper hearing, and it's the tribunal who decides. You should also tick the box indicating that you would accept an earlier hearing date if one becomes available. Then the form asks if you can take part in hearings by video. This means an online hearing. If you are unable to do this, maybe because you don't have internet access at home, you will need to explain that in the box. Section 17 asks whether you need any adjustments to take part in the tribunal process. Some examples of reasonable adjustments include an interpreter, additional breaks during hearings, extra processing time, or any other support requirements. You will also be asked about reasonable adjustments later in the process through the case review paperwork, giving you an opportunity to update the tribunal if your needs change. You will need to tick the declaration and sign the form. You can just type your name rather than sign it if you are completing the form electronically. The form includes a checklist to help you make sure you have included everything required. There is also a section where you can list any supporting evidence you are submitting if you want to. You can include the information in the email you send to the tribunal if that's easier. The easiest way to submit your appeal is by emailing it to send@justice.gov.uk. You will need to write new appeal in the subject line, and you will need to attach the appeal form to the email along with your local authority decision letter, mediation certificate if you have one, final EHCP if you have one, and any supporting evidence. It's very important that you check you have attached all of these documents, as the appeal cannot be registered without them. You can submit the appeal by post if necessary, but make sure to use recorded delivery. The tribunal communications are generally sent by email, even if the original appeal was posted. Once your appeal has been submitted, you should receive an automatic acknowledgement email confirming receipt. You then need to wait for the appeal to be registered. This should happen within 20 working days, so around 4 weeks. If you've not heard anything after that, you should contact the tribunal. Sometimes the tribunal will contact you if something is missing. However, this does not stop the appeal deadline clock running. Missing documents can potentially push the appeal beyond the deadline, meaning you may then need to explain why your appeal is submitted late.